Welcome to Barchart series of webinars designed to educate you about a variety of market concepts, inform you of the features and tools Barchart provides related to these concepts, and finally to give you some trader's insight to help you make a more informed investment decision. Today's subject, Barchart's top 100 stocks to buy. Now, Newton's first law of motion states that objects that are in motion will stay in motion. And traders will tell you that you can't make a new high without taking out the old high. Well, Barchart's top 100 stocks by page looks to identify stocks that are exhibiting positive price momentum, motion, where these stocks should be or potentially could be making new highs throughout a multitude of time frames. Hello, everyone. My name is John Rowland, and we're going to look at Barchart's top 100 stocks to buy page, and we're going to look how to decipher it, and I'm going to show you how you can use this in your investment planning strategy. But before we get there, to the top stocks to buy page, please welcome my partner and our moderator, Barchart's project director, Jean Baker. Hello, Jean.
Hi, John. How are you today?
I am just fine. So let me ask you something, Jean. In terms of popularity, is this one of our more popular pages?
Absolutely. We have a lot of people ask about it. A lot of people use it in their daily trading plan. And, you know, with the recent activity in the market, with everybody looking to sell off things in their portfolio, you know, it's kind of funny today you're going to be talking about top stocks to buy, but I think that the content is really good information for people to have. Would you agree with that, John?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm sure that folks are going to get something out of today's session, and I think it's kind of nice that we address one of our more popular pages. So I hope you agree with me on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you ready to get started then?
Let's go. Let's
All
get
right.
the show on the road.
Show on the road. All right, just a reminder that today's session is for educational purposes only, and decisions to buy, sell, hold, or trade securities, commodities, or any other investments involves risk and best made on the advice of a qualified financial professional, and that under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damages you or anyone incurs as a result of any trading or investment activity that you or anyone engages in based on information or material you receive through barchart.com and our services. Okay. So let's go back to Barchart, and I'm going to go under stocks. I'm going to go to our top 100, not top 100 stocks. Yes, top 100 stocks to buy page. So what this page does, as it's loading up here, it sorts out the top 100 stocks by something called the weighted alpha. So what does that mean? What does weighted alpha mean? So if I open up the help page over here, and I can see over here on the right-hand side, weighted alpha is a measure of how much a stock has risen or fallen over a one-period time. Second paragraph, Barchart takes that measurement of how much a stock has changed over a one-year period, and it weighs it and assigns more weight to recent activity and less to the beginning of that period. And that weighted alpha is measured, so the growth with an emphasis on recent price activity. In other words, positive momentum, positive motion. And then finally, this concept that a stock whose price is rising over a one-year period will have a positive weighted alpha. And stocks whose prices are not moving will have a very small or neutral weighted alpha. And then stocks that prices are falling over a period will have a negative weighted alpha. Now, before we jump into the page itself, I do want to mention just a little bit here, just bear with me, that there is some benefits of being a premium member. And why I'm talking about this is because I want you to understand that we're going to go beyond just the access to this page today in our session, right? And in order to do that, you do need to be a premier member. So one of the things that we can start thinking about is, first of all, I can sign up for end of the day reports, these emails, that is going to show me newly ranked stocks or symbols that have come on this page. This is going to be important for us. Second, I'm going to be able to view data from a more historical standpoint. In other words, I can pick a very specific date and see what stocks were on our page. And then third, this is the most important part for today, is that we're going to be able to screen off the symbols that are currently on the list, and this will allow you to add additional filters to further narrow down potential candidates. Okay, enough with the sales pitch. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so like any of our data pages or our watch lists or our portfolios, we're going to give you what is called a set of views, some default views. And this page is no different from any other one. And so you got main view, technical, performance, and fundamentals. Now you can also create your own custom views, and there is videos and help tutorage in our page that shows you how to do that. But first of all, let's look at the main view. So what's on our main page here? Well, first of all, here's our weighted alpha. Again, we're going to rank these based on the highest weighted alpha down to the next 100. And then we have our rank 1 and then our previous rank 1. So what is this telling me? Well, it's telling me that this particular stock is ranked number 1 today. And the previous rank, which was yesterday, this stock was also ranked number 1. Now, there's our last price, how much the price has changed today, and that change in terms of a percentage. Then the next two will give us this range of our 52 highs and lows. Now, typically what you're going to see here is those stocks that have a high ranking are probably going to be near the 52-week high. So just kind of as a general rule, you'll probably see that most of the stocks that are in the high ranking right now will probably be somewhere between 5 and 10% near its 52-week high, or maybe it might actually be making its 52-week high right at the moment. And you can see for today, for instance, this AMR, the last price is 120. Our 52-week high is 132. So we're about, 10% off of our 52-week high. But how can I use this information? So if I'm looking at a stock that is, let's say, rising through the ranks, maybe it's on the bottom half of the 100 or it's starting to make its way up, what I might discover is that its price is not at the high end of our 52 range. Maybe it's at the middle, or it's starting to get into the top third. That could be an indication that there's a lot more price action or a lot of more price movement on that particular stock. So that's kind of just going to give us that ballpark of where price is in terms of our 52-week range. And then again, our 52-week, how much has it appreciated on a percentage value. Under the technical view page, here we're going to start with something called our opinion. Now, our opinion is not like a stock analyst who's giving a buy recommendation or sell recommendation. Our opinion is based on 13 technical indicators, and it kind of is a composite of all those technical indications that gives us either a buy or a sell signal. Now, this is going to be important for us in terms of breaking down these individual stocks. Now, most of them are going to have very positive opinions. So what I've done is I've pushed on the plus sign of the symbol, and it's taken me to this resource page. It's going to allow me to go a little bit deeper. And you can see that our opinion page is telling us this is a strong buy and that the short-term technical analysis is in the current with the trend, and that the longer-term indicators are supporting this trend. And if I really wanted to go really deep into this, right, I can open it up, and there are our 13 indicators, short-term, medium-term, and long term, and all of them currently are now, and for this stock, the common interpretation is saying that it is a buy. Now, if you're interested about how to use this in your trading, this opinion in our tools under our archived webinars, we have several webinars that talk about it. There's our Barchart opinion, and some of them are just introductories. But last week we did one on swing trading. We got a little bit more in depth. And also, if you go down to trading ideas and scroll down through there, down at the bottom, you'll also find one that's called momentum trading using our strength and technical analysis. So there's a lot of background information in terms of how to use that indicator. Okay. What other technicals? Well, we have our 20-day relative strength index. Again, those of us understand what relative strength indexes are. Again, some of the ones that are going to be at the top of our ranking are going to be in the overbought condition. That would be normal with those that have high alphas. But again, how can I use this? Well, I could be looking for those that are rising through the ranks again, that have a relative strength that is not overbought, maybe in the 60s or 65, but is on the way towards getting to those higher elevated levels. Here's our historical volatility. So for my options traders, here's a technical analysis for you. Now, this is not implied volatility. This is a historical volatility. Our average volume. Now, this one is going to be important for us in terms of a comparison data. So I'm going to show you how to use this a little bit later in our session today. But what I really want to kind of concentrate on this one is, as I'm watching a stock, I want to watch to see if my volume average is going up. In other words, volume is going to confirm a price action. In other words, a trend. And so sometimes we might be able to use this as a confirmation of what we're seeing in terms of our price action. And then again, our 52-week range. Under the performance view, as it loads, again, our last, our alpha, our year-to-date change, our month change, 3-month change, and our 52-week change. Now, again, I want to just remind you that in any of the columns that we have and any of the data pages that we use, if you click on that data, that column, it'll rank the page by whatever filter, in this case, the year-to-date, and I clicked on that, and it's showing me that BP Bay Royalty Trust is up 184.99 year-to-date, the top year-to-date performer. If I go back to the weighted alpha again, right, and I rank, as it reloads. Come on, page. There we go. Again, our AMR is at the top of our list. Okay, so the question that a lot of you folks should be thinking about right now is like, how do I start? Or what would be my first step in terms of using this page? So let's not start at the top of our page. Let's actually go to the bottom of our page. And let me change back to our main view. Excuse me, apologize. Go back to my main view. Load that up. And I'm going to go to the bottom of my page. And I'm going to go here where it says previous rank. And I'm going to click on that. And what I want to look for at this point is these NAs. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that they were not on the list as of yesterday, and that today they're on the list. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start looking at the ones that are starting to pop onto our top 100 list. And I'm going to start thinking about, are these some of the stocks that I might be interested in? Or do they represent a sector that I might be interested in? Or are they part of a trend of market trend that I might be interested in terms of price action? And so, for instance, like here we see Hudson Global, right? And it wasn't on the list yesterday, and today it broke on the list. It's now ranked 98th, and its alpha is 8180. And again, I could go and look at this in terms of my chart and say, is this something that might interest me in terms of its price movement? Is it a story that I like? Is it a part of a sector that is performing well? And I can start that process. So let me again walk you through a kind of a process why we want to start doing this, watching a stock as it comes onto our list. So here's Alcoa. And Alcoa has been on this list for a while, and it's been one of the outperforming stocks in the market of recent. And so another tool that I can use is I can go into our historical and just follow me through this process. So I happen to know for a fact that back in December 16th, Alcoa popped onto our list. And as I'm doing this, walking through this process, I want you to watch two things. Well, let's watch the alpha, weighted alpha on Alcoa and its ranking, and also keep an eye on its price. So Alcoa popped onto the list at 84, jumped into the 84th spot on a weighted alpha of 124.47. Then on the first business day in January, Alcoa now had risen to 75 in the ranking, and its weighted alpha is now 141. And you can see the price now is $60.36. Then on the first business day in February, Alcoa now had jumped to 29, and its weighted alpha is now 145. Not a big jump, but still an increase in that weighted alpha. But look at our price. It was a little bit lower than it was in the last ranking. Now, that doesn't mean that Alcoa is going to fall off the list. It might actually be a buying opportunity. And then finally, let's see where it fell on the first day in March. And you can see that Alcoa's weighted alpha now is 186, and it was ranked 17th. And its price was $79.78. So again, here's what we're kind of looking for. We're looking for those that are starting to come onto our list, and then we can start doing some technical analysis, chart pattern analysis. But what did Alcoa do for that 4 months it was on the list? Well, it consistently did what? It rose through the ranks. Its alpha, its weighted alpha, continued to rise. And in terms of price action, what did it do? It continued to make higher highs as price went higher, as it trended higher. Notice that on December 16th, here's our December 16th, this is the day it popped on. What did it do that day? Well, it actually took out these three highs. There's our volume, right? We said we're going to start looking at volume. There's our volume was an indication that something was going on, an accumulation of shares. And then we started this trend, right? And there's some other volume spikes here that kind of motivated our trend. But you can see from December 16th to March 1st, Alcoa increased its value by about 51%. Now, I know I'm kind of cherry picking here. This is Alcoa, this is easy, but this is the process that we want to do. We want to see stocks come onto our list, watch their alphas, see if their alphas continue to increase, and that is telling us that we're in a positive price momentum. And that positive price momentum means that we're going to make a series of new highs. Well, if we think about an uptrend is defined by a series of higher highs and higher lows. And so in my trading investment plan, I could employ a buy strategy based on how I like to buy stocks. I could be looking for what? Breakouts, or I could wait for pullbacks, or I could buy breakouts, or I could wait for pullbacks. Now, currently for Alcoa here, we had just recently made an all-time high. And if I put up, let's say, some moving averages, we do see that we're kind of prices. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see this. The price has pulled back, but we're still on the list. We still have a strong alpha, weighted alpha. So this could be a buying opportunity for Alcoa in terms of our plan. Notice that today we are now engaging. These lines here represent moving averages. The red line is our 20-day moving average. So I could, as long as my trend is intact, which it looks like it is, that might have been an opportunity for me to re-engage or buy my Alcoa stock. All right. So before we move away from the page for a second, or I want to show you how to do some filtering. I did wanted to show you something that's kind of interesting. This is a little bit down a rabbit hole, but it also might be a sign of the times for us to think about. So we do have in Barchart, we do have some proprietary symbols, and I'll show you how to find that in a second. But one of the ones that we have is this one, dash top. And what this one is it takes the weighted alpha of the top 100 and it makes it into an average. So this is the average of the top 100 stocks, weighted alphas. And we can chart that. And as this draws up today, we can see that, since about March or April of last year, in 21, that the average weighted alpha of the top 100 has been consistently falling. So what can we take away from this? Well, first of all, it's telling us that many stocks that are out there, less and less stocks are having positive price action. Well, we know that for a fact because we know the market has been in what we would consider a bear market of recent. But it's also telling us that entry to get into the top 100 is also falling. So that also is telling us that the momentum, that alpha is telling us that the momentum of the market is also changing to a certain extent. Now, let's look at this in terms of a historical aspect. And at an historical aspect, what I can start to see is that we could use this potentially as a contrarian sentiment indicator. In other words, peaks and valleys. So currently we are falling here, but we're not on a historically low level. So those of us who are trying to think that maybe the stock market is going to bottom or is in a bottoming action, which we got, the market is up a little bit today, maybe we might want to wait until we see this weighted alpha average starts to fall. You can see maybe below 100. And you can see that a lot of these bottoms, right? If I compare them, for instance, with, let's say, the S&P, I'm just going to put the SPY here, the SPY index up. And I look at this on a comparative basis, you can see that a lot of the bottoming actions in the SPY, the S&P, and kind of correlate with our weighted alpha. So yeah, is the weighted alpha kind of holding here? Is it bottoming? Yeah, it probably is. But maybe if I thought that there was a bottoming action, I'd probably want to see our weighted alpha going up. and not going down as we're seeing here. So again, you can kind of use this as a contrarian indicator. All right. So let's go back to our top stocks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start screening. I'm going to show you how to start screening on our top stock page. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the technical aspect, right? So our weighted alpha page is kind of on a technical basis anyways. It's about momentum and it's about prices rising. So let's go to our screener. And it doesn't really matter how you look at it. My way might be not your way, but what I want to do is I want to pick some technical analysis that will reinforce positive price momentum. Okay. So first of all, notice that once I push it on the screener, it does say our popular page and there's top stock 100s. Now I don't have to go to the page. I can just go through the screener and I can go found on lists, popular pages, and you can see that that's where I can find the top 100 stocks. All right, so the first one I'm going to look at is, and this is one of the technical analysis that I like, is volume, because volume confirms price. It confirms price action, right? Accumulation of price. So I'm going to add volume change, and every trader is a little bit different. I'm just going to say I want to see a 20% improvement or above my 20-day moving average. Remember that 20-day moving average was in our technical analysis page. Now, if I'm doing this filter, or I set this filter up and I'm looking at this page in the beginning of the morning, I'm not going to get any candidates. Why? Because the market's not open yet, or it's just starting to open and there's not enough volume. So this filtering process I'm showing you is probably better used for at the end of the day to identify stocks that are now on the move and then have had volume to confirm that, or maybe a midday report. Let volume build before you start looking at that 20% increase. The second thing I'm going to look at is, and again, I'm just making this simple for you folks, is I want to see new high. Well, what new high do I want to see? Again, it could be depending on my time frame. So I want to see a new monthly high. I want to see if my stock is making a new monthly high, because new monthly highs usually lead to greater monthly highs, right? But you could do it on a weekly basis. You could do it over a 5-day period or whatever. A new weekly high usually gets you a monthly high. So you could do that. So I'm going to look for a new monthly high, but what I want to do is I want it to be greater than or equal to a field. In this case, I want to see that we've made a new monthly high in the last 5 days. Again, confirming that price momentum. And then finally, I'm going to go down to our opinion. And our overall opinion. But this time, I'm not looking at that composite of all of them. What I want to do is I'm going to learn, or I'm going to look at direction. And this is a little bit of a short-term indication. This is over the last 3 days. Again, a momentum type of indication. So I want to see my overall, all of my indicators, the short, intermediate, and long-term indicators, but I want to see each one of them, the composite of them telling me over the last 3 days, they're all turning positive and getting stronger. So I'm not going to pick the top 100. We know that they're going to be, we want to see those that are starting to strengthen, right? In other words, maybe what we're going to find is stocks that have been paused or had an impulse and correction, and then now is starting to move higher. And then I'll check those results. And so you can see that now we've lowered this down to 6 potential candidates. So this filtering process, this technical analysis future process, would be more of an actionable process. In other words, for instance, let's look at Hudson Technology. And I'm just opening up the chart. So this stock was on our list, is telling us that it has a greater alpha. And then also today, what do we get? We got our volume. And did the price break out of a range? Yeah, it broke out above our weekly high. It looks like it broke out above a monthly high. That was one of the filters we looked at, right? So this could be a breakout candidate stock. This would be more actionable. If I looked at this terms of a weekly, as this market making new weekly highs, yes, again, another a positive information. And again, if I wanted to look at this in terms of monthlies, right? Is this making new monthly highs? Yeah, it's making a new 4-month high. So a lot of positive momentum to this particular stock. And then I could set about a investment trading strategy based on this information, a little bit more actionable. Okay. So that's the technical part. The next thing we can start to do is we'll look at our list, but now we're going to take it from the fundamental aspect. And when I think about a fundamental aspect, what I want to do is I want to start picking out fundamental data that is going to reinforce a positive earnings. Now, the stock market or market analysts like to see positive growth in multiple metrics. Now, most of the time, what you'll see is that they focus a little bit on the quarter to quarter basis, not that's discounting year to year, year over year. But in the last earnings cycle, how many stocks had year over year great earnings, but their quarter to quarter had showed slower growth or had actually turned to the negative, and those stocks got punished. So a lot of times what we're going to look for is I want to find some fundamental data that I believe in, but I want to be, again, more of a short-term momentum. I want to look to see, do I see positive growth over those metrics from a quarter to quarter basis and not from on an annual basis. So the first place I'm going to start is in our income statement. And, one of the obvious ones would be sales. I want to see growth. I see sales growth. So I'm going to do last quarter. I'm going to add that. Now, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter. And I want to see last quarter sales. And I want to see good last quarter sales. Then I'm going to add 1 quarter ago. But this time I'm not going to add a filter to it. I'm not going to restrict the category of this one. I'm going to use this as a comparison. So here's my filter for sales. Here's my comparison. Next thing I'm going to look at is net income. Again, last quarter. Again, I'm going to filter it. I want to see good last quarter net income. And I'm going to add 1 quarter ago. Again, I'm not going to categorize it. I'm going to use this as a comparison. And also at this point, I think I'm going to look at net income growth. And I guess I just really want to see net income growth over 1 quarter. And again, this will be a filter. I want to see a positive net growth. And then we're going to move away from the income statement and we're going to go to cash flow. Again, a healthy company is creating positive cash flow. So again, I want to look at cash flow growth on a percentage basis. Again, I'm going to filter this. I want to see good growth. And I'm going to use a 1 previous quarter as a comparison. All right, and let's see what we get. And we get 37 out of the 100. Again, as I go through my process here, so here's my sales over a quarter, and here there was a quarter ago. Did my sales increase? Yes. Here's my net income this quarter. Did it increase over the quarter before? Yes. Did I have a positive percentage in this quarter? Yeah, I did. And did my cash flow increase? Well, in this quarter, my cash flow increased by 30%. In the previous quarter, it increased 100%. So here is one of my matrices that does not look favorable. Now, it depends on how important this is to me, or this could be a warning sign. If I see a negative sign, that could be a warning sign that maybe this stock might be peaking out or maybe start to change. But this is how we can go through that process. All right. Now, at this point here, before we do a cross comparison here, is, as you are building your screener out and you're doing this process, I just did this right now. One of the things you can do is save the screener, and that's kind of important. And you can name the screener, and then you can put it to your file. And again, we have webinars and tutorials show you how to do a screener. And so then what you can do is the next time you go to stock screener and stock screener comes up, see where it says save screeners right here? Well, here is my top 100 quarter to quarter fundamentals, which I just showed you. I'll just put it together, and notice at the bottom, there's our 100 stocks. This is a screener that I saved. Show you there's no trick here. And there's our 37 candidates, okay? So now what I'm going to do with this information, all right, so now I've identified 37 candidates that have this positive data, fundamental data, that is going to promote potential greater earnings. And then I'll do is I'll look at that data versus our actionable data, our technical analysis, those stocks that are on the move now. And so we have Hudson Technology, Kenyon, My Oil Trust, and Zim. Let me go back to my fundamental data. So which 5 of the technical are on there? So let's see what we got. We got Kenyon is on there, looks like. You see Kenyon here. And there's Zim. All right, let's look at Zim. Okay, so now I've identified a stock that has good fundamental information, and now it has good technical information. So then I could set forth my strategy for that particular stock. In this case, do I see a nice trend? Yeah, I do, right? The market is definitely trending up. Is the market now looking like today it's trying to break out of a range? So this could be a breakout candidate for me, right? Do I see positive volume over the last week or so as this trend is starting to gather energy? Yeah, I do. And now it's just up to my strategy, my risk management, my technique of how I would use this particular stock. This would be a candidate in my technical analysis, my fundamental analysis, and now I'm going to set forth my strategy as it breaks out. What was the other one? I think it was Ken. Let's go back to that. I think Kenyon, okay. Again, on both of our 2 lists. And again, what do we see? Upsloping trend, right? Looks like a candidate that just broke out over this little pendant here, right? So this could be a potential breakout candidate. Now, what does concern me on this particular one? First of all, it's not really a high volume stock. It's only trading 27,000 shares. That might be a no-go for some of you. Might be looking for mid caps or large caps. But, we're not really getting that volume breakout either, too. So that might be a cautionary tale for in this particular instance. Okay. All right. So that's basically the process. So we're going to look at those stocks that are rising through the ranks and see that if their alphas are continuing to increase and their ranks continue to increase. We'll look at our charts and see, are they continuing to make newer highs at multiple time frames? And then we can filter on a technical basis, again, looking for momentum, and also filter on a fundamental basis, looking for those fundamental data points that are going to reinforce or promote greater earnings. All right, so let me do this. I do see a couple questions here. Jean, are there any other questions or any more generic questions?
All right. Well, while you are reviewing your questions that I passed over, let me point out a few things. John showed you how you can save a screener, and the two screener setups that he just demonstrated are available with the slides. And toward the end of the session today, we'll show you the slides where you can find them later on in the webinar archive. But you'll be able to take John's setup, actually create your own screeners, save them. And if you're a Premier member, you can actually have Barchart send you those screens automatically at different times during the day. So extra bonus there for you today. You've got everything you need to do to duplicate what John just demonstrated for you.
Okay, great.
The other thing that I did have a few people ask me, okay, this top 100 stocks page you're on, there's also a bottom tab.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Right, I've had a few people ask, all right, well, what about the stocks that are at the lowest weighted alpha? So yeah, we have a bottom 100 stocks to buy. And just as John showed you that one special symbol, it's -TOP, there's a -BOT for the bottom 100 stocks that you can also, there you go. You can also
since we have a little time here, I'm just curious to see what I'm curious if the weighted alpha for this one is increasing, right? I don't know. Let's see. Right, because a lot more stocks have been falling. No, it's kind of flattening out, isn't it? So that could be a sign of let me change my template here. I just want to chart. That might be an indication of, a bottoming action. And again, we'd have to do this in terms of historical, right? Okay, so yeah, on a historical basis, this could be a contra-trend indication that maybe the market is a little bit oversold. Okay,
one
great
more
stuff,
question
Jean.
that
Go
Tim
ahead.
just popped up here. Can this process be applied to ETFs? And yes, Tim, we have a top 100 ETFs page as well. We don't have a bottom 100 ETFs page, but because the ETFs, there's such a much smaller group of ETFs that we can go through and filter on. But yes, top 100 ETFs as well.
Cool. Excellent. I always learn something with you, Jean, when I'm hanging out with you. So that's cool. Thank you very much.
I learn stuff from you all the time too, John. So it goes both ways.
All right. So Aaron asked the questions. Says, are stocks hitting 52-week highs more than once important factor in the weighted alpha? So remember, weighted alpha is two things. First, that you need price appreciation, and also it focuses on a shorter time frame of what's recently happened. So if a stock is making new 52-week highs, every other day or every third day or once a week, then it's going to have a greater alpha. So yes, Aaron, that's exactly what that means. So is that more important? Well, again, it depends on how you look at that stock in terms of a technical aspect and also a risk management aspect too. So, you might be looking at a stock that's breaking out at a 52-week high, but in the big picture, if we look at, let's say, a monthly time frame, maybe that 52-week high, now there's a lot of room for it to run, and that the next, a year ago or 2 years ago or pre-COVID or whatever, maybe that value is 20% or 30% higher from where our 52-week high, and that could mean that stock has a lot of room to run. If it's making a 52 high and making it an all-time high, well, again, that's more of a momentum trade. You're playing the momentum of that stock, and as long as it's continuing to show positive momentum, then you stay with that stock. All right, as long as its alpha continues to grow. So a couple questions says, do you buy 100% or do you buy lower percentage in terms of the opinion indicator? So that's a great question. So again, it comes down to your risk management style, right? So we know that those that have 100%, all 13 of the technical indicators are showing a buy signal. Now, in the segment that I did last week in swing trading, we talked about that you would look for maybe a little bit lower, maybe an 88 rating, and that might be because maybe some short-term indicators have turned a little bit neutral, right? That might be a sign that your stock has positive momentum over a longer period of time or a higher time frame, monthly, weekly, and that it's kind of just resting here in the shorter term. That's why we want to look at those technical analysis, those momentums, like volume or breaking out of a range or candlesticks. That could be an indication that our trend is about to be reinforced and that price is going to continue on. Now, if you have a stock that had a negative or a sell indication, then that might be more of a concern, right? But most of the stocks that are on this page are going to have very high opinion indications. So there's a couple other questions, and I think they're kind of both related. One says, should we look for news as reasons to increase alpha? Again, yeah, news is a catalyst, right? You could be micro news that's related just to that stock, or it could be macro news, for instance, the Fed or jobs report or any of those. So yeah, news is definitely a catalyst for movement of price action. And then the follow-up question was, do you buy a strengthening or strongest, again, in that opinion indicator? In the case, what I showed you was the direction. So the direction is over a 3-day period. So yes, I like to look for those that are coming from, let's say, an average to strengthening, right? And not one that has already kind of made that move, that top 1%, right? So Gene's throwing me a couple more questions here. So let's see. Ron's asking, which strategy supports short-term high probability moves in the 1 to 5 days? So let me think about this for a second. What strategies support short-term? Well, again, momentum is a huge piece of a short-term strategy. Watch my swing trading video we did last week. We really kind of talk about that 1 to 5 day idea. So I don't want to go in a lot of depth in that one, Ron. But watch that video. I think you'll enjoy that. So David asks about any thoughts about a potential dead cat bounce and how we look at those. So again, that's more risk management, right? And that would be kind of that bigger picture, right? If we're in a bear market, we get a lot of these bear market rallies. Dead cat bounces sometimes they're referred to. So you could be looking at some other technical analysis, maybe some longer term analysis, for instance, a 200-day moving average. So if your stock is on the top 100 list, there's probably a good chance that it's going to be above most of your major moving averages. So for instance, for the subject today, probably not going to be a lot of dead cat bounces on this particular page, but there could be. I'm not saying that there's not. But in that sense, maybe I'm going to be looking at a much higher time frame analysis. In other words, I'm going to look at monthlies or weeklies and then make sure that what I'm seeing here is a positive, higher time frame uptrend. In other words, a monthly uptrend, and that maybe what we saw was in the shorter term, maybe let's say over the last month or last couple of weeks, we had a major correction. The good example would probably be Alcoa, right? In terms of our chart, right? This has been in a major uptrend, right? Let's say if we go to a weekly chart, right? Well, here's a daily chart, right? We've been in a major uptrend, right? Our 200-day, 100-day, or 50-day, our 20-day moving averages are all strong, right? If I went to this, and let me turn off my moving averages, just go to a chart, and I look at it on a weekly basis, right? Well, what do we see here, right? We see for today, this week, Alcoa has had a major correction. Matter of fact, this correction from a high of around 92 to the low of 78, that's, 15, 18%. That's a big correction. So at this point, do I think that maybe there's more to come, or am I going to wait for some other shorter term momentum indicators over the next couple of days? See that, hey, maybe this is going to be a dead cat bounce. But in this case, it's not a dead cat bounce because what? This market is still what? Trending higher. So I hope that helps a little bit, David. I think it's just a difference between a bull market and a bear market. Okay. How are we doing in time? Oh, we're doing great. Perfect. All right. So let's do this. Let's go back to my slides. So what are some takeaways that we can get from today's session? So the first one is that first process, right? We're going to identify our new candidates, right? And we're going to watch them as they ascend over on a weekly basis. Right? Remember, this is not really more of a timing tool. This is really more about looking for catching those larger trends. Remember the example of Alcoa, right? It took 4 months for it to increase by 50%. The other thing that kind of ties into that top scale chart. Remember Alcoa came on the list at 84 with a 124 weighted average? Well, if we look at the weighted averages of those candidates that are coming on today, they're in the 70s or they're in the 80s. I think we need to also think about expectations in terms of, how much we're going to see our weighted alphas increase on a weekly basis. All we really want to see is that our stock stays on the list and its weighted alpha continues to grow. What technical analysis I'm going to use to confirm momentum? And there's a lot of different ones. Some of you might use RSIs, MACDs, or maybe you look at Bollinger Bands. Or there's so many different types of technical analysis. And your way could be the right way. It's your style. What I just showed you was just some very simple things to think about. Volume. Volume confirms price. Making sure on my chart that my trend is continuing to make new weekly highs, new monthly highs, right? And also then the importance of our bar chart opinion, because what it does is it looks at 13 indicators and it kind of composites them into one. As long as I know I have a high buy rating, then I know that all of those indicators are positive. And then finally, what fundamental data that favors positive price momentum? So what does the stock market like to see? Well, it likes to see growth. And so what data points do they look at? Well, they like to look to see growth from a quarter-to-quarter basis, not discounting the annual, but those stocks that have positive growth from quarter-to-quarter basis tend to outperform. And so what were some of those ones? Well, what ones will promote this positive earnings? And that would be sales, revenue, income, cash flow, and there's other metrics that we can think about. All right. So that brings me to the next point. The importance of becoming a member of our Premier members. In order to get beyond the front page of our 100 top stocks page, and allow us to do this analysis that I just went through with you, our technical analysis, our fundamental analysis, you need to become a Premier member. And Gene would let you know that you can try our Premier member for 30 days and then you try it out, see if it works for you, because all these additional filters, these screeners, this historical data, these newly ranked, the information that you're going to get are all premium features. Okay. All right. Did I forget something, Gene? I know I forgot.
You know what you forgot. Let's talk about next week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So next week, boy, the weeks are flying, Gene.
I know. I know. It's going to be April before we know it.
Yeah. So next week we're gonna go into Fibonacci's technical analysis based on number sequences or ratios. And a lot of Elliott wave theorists use this. Now, we're not going to go down the Elliott wave theory rabbit hole, but I'm going to show you a very basic and simple way to how we can use Fibonacci's extensions and retracements. And also, I'm going to show you a little cool little technique about how to use Fibonacci's to scale in and also to scale out of positions. We get a lot of questions from viewers to say, hey, I do a good job of picking entries and I find good stocks that move or markets that move, but I never know when to get out or when I should sell out, right, or take my profits. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of a technique how to do that. And then again, what Gene was talking about is in our archive. Again, give us a couple hours before we get today's session up. Top stock to buy. I think it's up here, right, Gene? Right?
That's it. Download the slides. That's going to show you, right, that's going to show you all of the screener filters that John used today. You know, while we are on this page, I do want to point out the YouTube button at the very top. Barchart has our own YouTube channel where you're going to be able to find all of John's webinars, as well as a number of short little video clips that he's been generating and posting with additional content. If you head on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe, you can actually ring the little bell there and you'll be notified of any new videos that pop up on our channel. We sure would appreciate it.
And those of you who are watching this session on the recording later on, give me a thumbs up or, drop me a comment and tell me what you liked about today's session. I would really appreciate that. As far as anything else, Gene, I think that's pretty much it for today.
I believe so. It's all good.
So I want to wish everybody the best of health, be safe out there, and the good of all trading.